Welcome to your go-to podcast for making the most of your second chance after a conviction, inspiring you to navigate the challenges associated with having a criminal record. I'm your host, Dion, and this is Uncensored Inspiration. Welcome to another episode of Uncensored Inspiration, where you can speak freely and think boldly. Remember, we are your go-to podcast for making the most of your second chance after a conviction. I'm hyped again, y'all. I got my next guest, Tre Hadrick of Norristown. He is the author of Clippers and Cheesesteaks. He is a counselor at the Votech, and he is also an advocate for Black people. Welcome, community, Tre Hadrick.
Oh, thank you, Dion. That's a great intro. Oh, man.
It's the truth.
I appreciate it. Yes, I am the author of Cheesesteaks and Clippers. We have two books. Cheesesteaks and Clippers 1, Cheesesteaks and Clippers 2, Making Change, which is about financial literacy.
Nice.
These were two things that were birthed from the pandemic a little bit prior, but you know, we had a lot of downtime, allowed me to think and build. Yes, I am a school counselor at Central Monaco Technical High School, formerly known as the Votech, as you said, which many people know.
Came through.
Yeah, and people still call it the Votech, you know, but that's our new name. I've been there for almost 3.5 years now.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. I did 10 years at Eisenhower Middle School.
Okay. My alma mater.
Yeah, mine as well.
Okay.
There you go. In Norristown School District. And, you know, I've just been fortunate in a lot of different spaces. I've been an adjunct professor at Villanova. I've coached. I've just done different things and just opportunities to serve people, you know. And as you mentioned, I want to go without saying that there's a special knack in my life to make sure that our people, Black folk, are taken care of, whether it's representation I do myself, you know, holding myself accountable, you know, but also making sure that we have a seat at the table.
Absolutely. So with that being said, what made you want to be an advocate for helping people, which ironically enough is why you're here.
Sure.
So we're from a small town. I'm going to jump out of this a little bit. We're from Norristown, where everybody knows everybody that is big, right? But we're really big. His mother was my middle school teacher. His father, a track coach at Norristown High School. So it's all like we're community, and I believe that you have the same spirit, and that is taking care of our people.
I appreciate
What
it.
makes you feel that way? What makes you want to help?
Be honest with you, you hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
My mother and father are instrumental as, you know, examples that
Good
I
examples.
saw every day. Good, not perfect, but good.
No one's perfect.
But, you know, I would say that what I witnessed in the selfless acts of my parents, my mom putting in countless hours post the end of the day at Marshall Street Elementary. That's where she ended up retiring, being a street counselor there.
Nice.
And then my dad doing the services, coaching and activism. You know, I just realized that it's my calling.
Okay.
Right? And then myself as a former student athlete, having coaches, right, that motivate me when it came back to that is like, how can I serve and help others? And, you know, I bumped my head many times trying to find ways to do it. Sometimes I try to come in like a bull sometimes, and I got to calm down, right? You know, but I care. I want to make a difference, and I want our people to be taken care of. You know, even recently, I was researching about the Hollow.
Mm-hmm. And what is the Hollow?
So the Hollow was actually where Oak Street Park is.
Okay.
Now, but it was an African-American community.
Oh, okay.
In Norristown. So if anybody out there is paying attention, try to find some information about the Hollow. It was where Oak Street Park is now. Is at Chestnut and Arch. Try to find pictures, anything from family members. We're doing a crazy research, trying to learn more about the Hollow. But the Hollow is a Black community, right there in Norristown, right? And they had laundromats. There was a market there, I believe.
And these were owned by African Americans.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And no one really knows this, right? And it's completely washed away.
Of course.
No pictures. No.
Okay.
You get what I mean?
I do.
Right. So when we have stuff like that we don't know about, that doesn't give us the inspiration sometimes, right? Because we don't have a clue.
Okay.
Right. We need to know this because it tells us like
lineage.
Correct. Right. And then we have our challenging times. We look back on stuff and say, we've come from this. We come from greatness.
This is possible.
It's possible. Right. Almost to the point where you say about your, you know, when people go through their challenges with the legal system, right? You have to see other people who's made it.
Who are successful.
That's it. Because if you only see the negative side and you see people who are constantly going back, then it's going to be like, well, I'm stuck forever, you know?
stuck forever. And a lot of times when some of us become incarcerated or unfortunately behind bars, we are without the books. So it brings us to our topic, which is books behind bars and literacy. How important is it for us as African Americans, once we come out of the system, to kind of pursue our educational goals, to get right, to get a GED, to get a high school diploma? Talk to me about that.
It's apparent. Like I would say, literacy is not everything, but it's just close enough, right? And I say that to say because there's other opportunities that people can help you get through, right? Through life and learning. But the reason why I say it's so important, if not the next best thing to everything, is because there's so many words in this world that we live in, an industrialized society of the United States that are always in front of us, right? That you have to be able to navigate that way, right?
Absolutely.
Being able to read and communicate. Yes, the reason why I said literacy of like the reading part is not everything, because we can still orally communicate with each other and we have these conversations and we talk, right? But as soon as words are put on a page and we're not allowed to speak, everything changes.
Okay.
And that's where people have to understand. And I think that's where when individuals who have been incarcerated, right, and if you look at the rates and statistics, some of the juvenile delinquents who've been locked up, I think it's like 85% are quote unquote not on grade level or illiterate, or some of the people percentage. And I think I researched it. If you don't mind me looking
absolutely.
up.
I love facts.
I looked up some information because I didn't want to just come to say things without have information on that. 70% of adults in the United States prisons cannot read above a 4th grade reading level.
That is tragic.
Right? And to me, that's saying that the 4th grade reading level, if you equate that to everyday understanding, that's like basically saying like you can't read a menu.
No.
Right? Like if you think about it, if they took away the pictures on the menu and just had the words, how many people want to know what
they're in trouble? You can't read a contract.
You get what I'm saying? Just imagine, like, if they take away those pictures or those chicken McNuggets or those that double mac, whatever, we don't have a clue. A lot of people, they don't realize that they know that sandwich or that milkshake because of that.
So we are working with a society that is functionally illiterate or functionally literate. So when those persons come out, we're already behind the curve, right?
100%.
We've got a double negative. I now have a conviction. I have some challenges with education, which is going to prohibit me from getting a job. What can we do to help?
So I think it's a couple things, and it's unique that we're having this conversation today. Also think it's unique. I've been blessed in the space that I am in the career now, working at the tech school. One, personally, I believe that all children, and I'm going back to childhood, right? So we go back to foundation because, adults don't just land where they are, right? There's steps the way they get to where they are. They usually most adults who are incarcerated have had a juvenile challenge and probably were incarcerated or were locked up, as we would say. I used to work in the Montgomery County Youth Center. Some people call it Monkey Hall. Back in the day, I worked there for 6 years. So I've never been locked up myself, but I completely understand the feeling. And it is. But working in that facility taught me a lot. Especially with the amount of young men and young women who unfortunately were killed for gun violence. The individuals who were readmitted for their same charges or got the same charges as adults. So I completely understand that. But going back to the childhood part, I think that kids should have that career education prior to leaving high school, right? Like not even if they're going to go to college or not, just
trade schools,
just in general.
Entrepreneurship.
That, right? So that's where I'm going with this. So before you graduate high school, I think you should have some exposure to career education. Right? Whether you go to college, trade school, community college, the military, entrepreneurship. But then if you do have these challenges in life, when it's time to come back out, on top of getting your literacy things in order, and that's a whole nother animal, right, that we're not even really familiar with in our community. Sometimes we talk about dyslexia. Like you hear a black person talk about dyslexia, you think, oh, they read backwards and something's wrong with them, or right? We don't really know about the science of reading. That's a whole big thing.
Complexity of seeing letters
and all that,
backwards,
right? Like really getting deep. Now we can talk about like reading Rainbow and stuff like that, and how Sesame Street was actually designed for inner city youth to help them learn how to read and write. But if we talk about the details that they say in the educational space, not everyone knows, right? But I think when individuals who had the challenge, and when you do get a permanent asterisk on your record, right? You have to have options. And I think the educational system can give you that.
Okay.
If you had that entrepreneurial background coming from a tech school and knowing that, like, the reality is, landscapers are needed every day.
Okay.
Right? People might not want to deal with that, but the understanding that the grass is going to keep growing.
That's right.
Money's going to keep going.
That's right.
Right? So I think sometimes people have to understand, like, what can I do? But if you don't have those skills, it's even worse when you come out. So I think with not being able to read and write, right, and not having books. I mean, some guys go to, and women go to prison for, let's say, a 5-year span. I'm talking about on a small, and come out for 5 years, you've been in the same environment and still having no difference in your reading capabilities when you had the time to really structure time, honestly, to fix that, and no one is pushing you to do that.
And I was going to say that right there is a challenge, because now I'm here. I have the time, I have the space, but because I'm here, they're not really interested in seeing me get out of here, right? Correct. They're just interested in me being here and doing what I'm told to do. Correct. So in a situation like that, how could a person advocate for themselves to say, you know what, I am state property, but I want more. I know that tomorrow is not my exit day, but 2 days from now is, and what can I better do to prepare myself to not come back here?
I think it's a systemic thing that we have to really challenge the justice systems.
Okay.
That the acts of the consequence and what the individual is, the rehabilitation part of it.
Yes.
We have to make sure that we're putting that in place.
Okay.
Because if you just sit somebody, it's like, when somebody tells a kid to go sit in the corner or you're suspended, right? Like, I always tell people, think from an educational side, right? Which is going to be similar to what we're talking about. We suspend kids sometimes for 3 days for a fight, right? Where does 3 days mean that your behavior is going to change because you're out of school for 3? Like, where does the proof that 3 days OSS changes your behavior? And I know people can easily say, well, what are the parents doing? But still, like, I'm talking about, like, data proven of why that makes it different. Like, where does sitting in this cell guarantee that your behavior is going to change?
I thought about that.
Right? You have to have intentional activities done to make a difference.
Corrective measures to help you.
You have to. You just can't say, well, if you're away from your family, that's going to make you change.
That's enough punishment.
It's not. I always say, like they said with the suspension, like, you can't guarantee that that's going to make a difference and a child's not going to fight.
There's several things in that. There's the root, right? Why did we get to the fight? And the root of why did the crime happen, right?
Bingo.
So we've got things that are already in place. And now on top of that, we're just going to give you a slap on the wrist and say, sit inside this box. And I feel like it's intentional. The design is not for you to go past this box. We absolutely want you to come on back and visit this cell again. And in that, the mindset for us is that we're tricked into believing that this is all I can do. I got in trouble once, I'm going to get in trouble again. And I said for myself personally, oh, hell no. I look cute in orange, but not in a jail suit. I like being free. I want to be a parent. This was well before I became a parent. And I remember during my trial, the judge said to me, because it was interesting. He said, my full out intent was to sentence you to 7 years. And I wanted you to do every bit of the 7 years. He said, but you came here and you talked to me. He said, you were able to convince me that this isn't what you deserve. He said, however, if I see you back here, you will rue the day that you met me. And again, words are important and I wouldn't be funny. I'd say, hold on, Your Honor. What does rue mean? So I make sure I don't come back here to see you, friend. And he laughed and he was like, you deserve a second chance. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the tears started flowing, but I'm going all the way around this to say, had it not gone that way, and I had to go sit down, what would I be looking at?
Yeah.
What opportunities is someone coming into the jail and saying, okay, sis, you made this mistake, girlfriend. You're going to sit down for 7 years. God, thank you that it didn't happen. But after you come out, this is what you have to do to get yourself in the right situation. This is where we need you to be. And how important is education in that? Because I'm going to go back to RUE, R-U-E. And I have no idea what he meant.
I'm waiting because I
will regret the day you met me.
When you talk about that literacy aspect, right? it made me think about a student, because I'm tying the criminal justice and education together, right? But it made me think about a student where it's time to read and you put your head down because you can't read.
You can't.
So there's someone who was in front of that same judge when they said "rue" and was like, "I don't know what that means, but I'm not going to ask you because I'm embarrassed." Right? Going back to why literacy is so important.
Okay.
So if you don't have that courage to speak up, imagine how many times that judge said "rue," and it just kept going and going and going.
And that person came right back.
And they came right back.
Understand he means
because they didn't understand it.
Yes.
And probably couldn't pick up the dictionary to read the word "rue." Probably, like so many ways. Is it ROO? Is it whatever? Like they probably couldn't look for it and say, I don't even see a word "rue" in the dictionary, right? Not the RUE, right? So it was just powerful when you said that you even asked, because I think part of that default in our literacy space is not having that courage because you don't want to seem like you don't know something. I was that child at times, not all the time, but who didn't want to read, right? Struggled to read. So when we had class, I would put my head down. I would act like I'm asleep.
Try to be invisible.
Right? I was on that 7th grade hallway with Mr. Passmore and all them people.
Yes.
And
they're calling your name.
Calling my name.
Hadrick, I see you.
And I'm looking up like, I don't want, because it's time to read, right? But at the same time, we need to look as educators now, why are kids avoiding that? That means we're not doing the right thing somewhere, right? I posted something recently to tell parents this summer, have your child read out loud to you.
Absolutely.
At least once. So you would know. That's like the easy, like almost assessment to know if your kid can read or not.
Not even, and I'm sorry, because my brain just did like rapid fire with the parents. I think sometimes too is for literacy specifically, it's a cycle, right? My mom didn't complete school. My dad didn't complete school. Grandparents didn't complete school. So now you have this child who's stuck in this situation where it's not all their fault, right? And it's not necessarily the parents' fault either. How can we help them, right? There has to be a connection between home and literacy. If you don't come from a parent of readers, right? I can buy all the books I want to, but if you don't actively see me engaging in this activity, how will you know that this is going to strengthen you? How will you know that reading really is the key to understanding yourself and this world?
I think one thing that schools can do, and parents can opt out, right? But when a kid comes in kindergarten, ask the parent their educational level.
Okay.
Right? Not saying they have to answer it.
Okay.
But if they say something like, I dropped out of school, right? Or probably to like grandparents, like you said, right? Because that's enough to tell you a little bit about that child. Then you can have a better, like just a prereq of what this kid probably is up against.
Okay.
Right? So that gives the schools a little bit, so that we're not saying, D-Lee, you ain't going home and your parents ain't help.
Okay.
I don't have that at home.
Okay.
I don't have that same support, right? So I think it's unique that we have to look at, everybody has to come to the table, right? Educators, parents, everybody, and be honest and be vulnerable about what the challenges are, right?
Okay.
Too often people want to point, like you said, this kid has grandparents and parents who didn't graduate. So what you really think you're going to say, it starts at home with them? I do believe it starts at home. And I'll say this to people out there. I believe it starts at home when we're talking about the social and emotional and the behavioral. But when we're talking about the literacy and the math, I think it's more of a support system at home, because the school is bringing that forward and saying, this is what we have to teach you.
Okay.
So how can that always start at home if things change, and the method in which we have to teach you?
Okay.
But social and emotional respect, that 100% starts at home.
Yes.
Right? And if it doesn't happen, then we have to see it as a school and know that this is a place that is mandated for children to go, right? Where we have so much time to make a difference in a child's life, and say, how can we, hopefully alter their behavior to get what we think makes them successful, so they don't end up in front of that judge when he's saying "rue" and they're saying ROO.
And what
are you talking about?
Kangaroo?
Like, what are we talking about, right?
Yes.
But that's even literacy right there, for you to be able to add that word in kangaroo, right? Where some people won't even caught that, right? But that's someone who's helped you somewhere in your life with literacy.
His mother, we're going to give a shout out to Bonnie Hadrick right now, because again, This is how my 6 degrees of separation work. And it is strong people in the community that make a difference, right? And my mom went to community college. My dad didn't. But seeing polished Black women in the schools, in Eisenhower, Sherry Grimes, Bonnie Hadrick, seeing women who actually had a nurturing spirit pass their own children to want to see me succeed, to offer additional help after school, to be that village that is no longer present. And I'm not saying that for all teachers. I'm saying that in being a parent, raising a child, we've gone through some struggles, and I've had to look at this from different lenses, because I would say, if this was Miss Hadrick, this wouldn't be happening. You know what I mean?
And I'm gonna say something to that, and this might not make everybody feel warm and fuzzy inside, but there was a time in this community when educators lived in the community.
Absolutely.
And it's not as prevalent at this time.
Okay.
Right? There are districts that have many educators who live in their same district. They work and live there and send their kids there.
Absolutely.
And right now it's not. And it's not about why or is it. It's the fact that the data will show you that not everybody lives here locally in the Norristown area school district community, right? West Norriton, East Norriton. Back then, it's a difference because you know why? Because Bonnie lived here. Bonnie cared about these kids who were also, not that she looked at it from this angle, but who also were on her tax dollar to be successful.
Okay.
And her child was coming up in that system. So she knows she was doing it well for everybody else, that hopefully, karma in a good way will come around and take care of her own child.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's part of that. And that makes a difference. And I'm not saying teachers don't care because you don't live here. It means you don't care. I would never say that. But it is a difference when your child is sitting in those seats with those other children you care about as well.
Absolutely.
100%. And you can never tell me anything. It's like when you coach a sport. When a dad is coaching for these kids, and sometimes we say daddy ball, but the reality is that effort is going so hard because your kid's there and those other children are benefiting from it.
And they're feeling that community support.
That's a difference. There's so many Mr. Glover.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
I remember Mr. Glover. Yes.
Dr. Robinson.
Yes.
Miss Rachette.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like there was a
Mr. Sweeney. These people
Mr.
lived.
Scott too.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
A lot of these people lived here.
Around on Elm Street, literally
Yes,
around
they
the
lived
corner.
in the community. Like
Miss Pearl.
I'm telling you, there's a lot.
Yes, it
Mr.
goes
Ginyard,
on.
Miss Ginyard.
Yes, it goes
right.
on
They
and on.
lived here, and that's and that's
Davenport.
listen, and that's the Black edge. But even some of the white, just being honest, who lived maybe in East North, but they lived here, and their children were also product the Cresswell family. Like I know people, right? So when people like, yeah, it was different. And we chose to move as educators if you left, right?
Yes.
I'm still here,
Okay.
and that's my choice.
Thank you.
And I work here, my son's in here, but, and everybody's calling is different, and maybe that's why. But people have to realize that makes a world of a difference. And when we're talking about outcomes for kids so we can avoid those situations that you're saying, we need people because it makes it just does.
So maybe having more people in the community, you're saying live in. Our teachers need to stay in our community. We need to be able to see you, need to be tangible outside of this 8 to 4 Monday through Friday would make a difference in how our outcomes are for A, literacy, and B, hopefully not going and being incarcerated and understanding options.
Listen, I truly believe that. I'm not saying everybody, but there has to be a percentage.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's forced, but just to me, to really move the communities, there are community. If you look at other areas, right? I don't know the exact detail, and I don't think, honestly, some people may say, "Well, I'm an alum, I care." You do, right? But your diploma from the high school is not going to get altered at all based upon the outcomes of the current children.
Okay.
But when your kid is on a sports team, or your kid's in that class and maybe the skill set is not propelling them forward, right? Or if you don't have children and you're a taxpayer, but you're still an educator in this district, and you're saying your taxes are going up, but we're not giving results, or whatever the
I
case
was
may
one of those
be,
people, yes.
right? Those type of scenarios, people start sitting like, damn, like, I need to fight for this, yes. And there's places I have to go and say, I'm coming to you as Tre Hadrick, the parent. So you understand that.
Yes.
And if you hold it against me because I'm an educator, now you're violating my rights because I know I'm a parent first.
That's right.
But when we have more people who know that at the table and are it makes a difference.
Okay.
It makes a difference.
I like having this conversation, so we're making our community aware, right? It's more than just sticking together. It goes more than just past my child. This is a concerted effort to make sure, not only are we reading, because I want to go back to the fourth grade level, if most of our people are getting locked up, and I want to say, and I don't have statistics, say between the ages of 18 and 30, that means somewhere around 8, we lost you.
100%.
Right? So bringing things into the schools as far as careers maybe needs to start in elementary school. Maybe, and I like what you were saying about having teachers live in the community, as should the police, because that was one of the things that really troubled me about Norristown. Y'all keep hiring all these folks that ain't from town to govern the people who are in town, and this is why we keep clashing. You need to be my neighbor so that you can understand my struggles. I need to know your kids so that I can say, oh, okay, little Johnny outside doing X, Y, and Z. Maybe little Johnny needs to get this lawnmower and start working on a skill. Maybe we need to have more people come out. I also remember your stint with Men of Excellence. Maybe we need to pull more of these young people in at an earlier age and start talking to them.
I believe, and even on, like you said, Men of Excellence, like there's a point where, I believe we got to learn how to train our replacements.
Okay.
And I think
that's
often,
powerful.
As Black people, we've waited so long for opportunities that we get a certain age and we're almost exhausted to be able to give back to train that.
That's right.
Right. So that's something that I'm trying to learn now, is like looking at my age, and I know I might not be the oldest, but I'll say, hey, I got to start training this guy now because I know what he's getting ready to come.
Capable of.
Right.
Too.
And capable, and what's the road ahead. Right. I do believe that we need to have people in the community. Something has to make change. Something has to be threatened sometimes.
Okay.
If I'm saying that correct.
Okay.
Right. And I don't mean threatened like
the fear of.
Like fear of.
Yes,
right. Like
it's not going to be there anymore. It's not available.
Or when my child goes to high school, how would his sports program be? Or
there's no cursive in schools right now, and I'm flipping. How's he going to sign a check,
correct.
y'all?
Or in a sense of I know at Plymouth White Marsh High School they have something called the International Baccalaureate program, I believe it's called.
Okay.
It's an IB program,
Okay.
right? Like, how do we get that here?
Okay.
Right? We got to start thinking of those ways. Like, and I'm like, well, my son's almost there. How are we going to get this because I'm here.
And you know what else is also interesting, and you're saying this, and it is kind of off topic, but the same topic. When we moved from Norristown, and because I had heard about the ROTC program, and I'm only saying, looking at all avenues, if it's not college, if it's not technical, let's consider the military. But when we came over here to King of Prussia, they were like, ROTC? Oh no, friend, we don't do that. Everybody here is going to college. So even where you live, the school district you live in, there is a track already set up for you. We just don't know about that track yet. But it also includes a track for prison. And I'm only saying this because I was an educator in Georgia, and one of my professors, I can't call her name, but she said it, by 3rd grade, they have already determined who in these schools, based on the test. What are the tests that we have to take every year? And the students who don't do well on those performance tests, that these are the group of people who will be incarcerated. And I say that it's a system that's set up to catch you if you don't have that village,
so
right?
True. So I want to do 2 plugs. Just we said do a plug earlier.
Shout it out.
One plug for Instagram for Cheesesteaks and Clippers. If you look up Cheesesteaks and Clippers on IG, from my 2 children's books, you'll see our merchandise line as well as the books and where you can purchase the books. But then also when you just talked about literacy and early childhood in 3rd grade, myself and a couple guys in the community, we started an organization called the Lit Champs.
Okay.
Right? And that's also on IG. So you can look up Lit Champs on Instagram, but it's about literacy, phonemic awareness. And we went a full circle to just talking about literacy because during the pandemic, my son was struggling with reading.
As most children were, mine too.
Yep. And we were able to get a tutor. We met online.
Nice.
From the barbershop, Goodfellas here in the local area with Jockey Skolston and Thad.
Nice.
PA.
Hey, Thaddeus.
Yep. We were able to do a book study, right? And from that book study, we learned about dyslexia, the science of reading.
Okay.
Right? Phonemic awareness, phonics, all these things.
What is phonemic awareness?
Ooh,
That's
phonemic,
a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So So a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound.
Okay.
Right. So that's basically what it is. So
Okay.
like so when a child starts, when an infant, right? Actually, I have a 6-month-old at home.
Oh,
Right?
congratulations.
Thank
New
you.
baby.
New baby, right? Talking about the oldest and talking about the new one.
Okay.
So when they start talking, even that black, it's still sound.
The phonetic sounds.
There you go, right? But the phonemic is the sound that we hear. So like what we hear, the sound, because not what we're speaking.
Okay.
Like in the realm of listening, right? Phonemic awareness and being able to connect the two, right? So knowing the sound and knowing what it goes with when it comes to the letter awareness and everything as such. But for our community, we were learning this stuff, and it's sort of foreign, right?
Okay.
Because we don't talk about dyslexia, as we said earlier, and all these things. With the Lit Champs, we now have published our first, and these are called decodable books.
Okay.
Where these books are engineered to teach children how to read.
That is amazing, and congratulations.
Thank you. So there's 6 books in a stack for kindergarten through 3rd grade.
Okay.
Basically foundational learning.
Okay.
But these books in there.
3rd grade.
There you go. That's why. That's why.
Okay.
That's why I'm connecting the two.
Cool.
Right? And these books are engineered to teach children how to read. Norristown Area School District has recently purchased sets of these for their kindergarten classrooms.
Good. Thank you, Norristown.
So that'd be a great thing for the kids. And these books are familiar, right? They have that look of the community, right?
Okay.
They have familiar faces in the community.
Nice.
In the books, right? They have content questions, right? They have social and emotional questions.
Okay.
Even for little kids, right? So you can start talking about things early on, right? So we can find these gaps that we can fill and help these children.
Yes.
So that when 3rd grade comes, we can start looking at the scores differently because we go from learning to read to reading to learn.
All right.
Right?
Okay. Mastery.
Mastery, right? And then when we get into that middle school, when you met my mom,
Yes.
right? The behaviors, because we're engaged in the content, as long as it's relevant for our kids. But when we're engaged in that content, now kids can propel and go higher up, and we can push you to the National Honor Society and, just doing your best, whatever that might look like.
Yes.
Right? Because when we don't have that, then the space gets very drowned and then we get watered out. And when we start swimming in deep waters, what happens? The negativity, the bad experiences, and everything as such.
Okay. So on a final thought, if you could, I feel like, because I always say final thought and I have 16 questions. If you could change something right now with regards to books, bars, literacy, what would you change to help us?
One thing I would change is exposure. I believe exposure eliminates excuses. And the more we're allowed to expose our children to outside experiences, as we spoke earlier about, right?
Leaving Norristown.
Leaving Norristown, right? And leaving Norristown with the understanding of giving back to whatever way you can. I don't believe in leaving it and turning your back completely. I believe leaving it, finding what space is good for you, or just getting exposed and bringing it back to the hood, whatever it needs to be.
And when I say leaving, I don't mean like an exit strategy, but I mean seeing something besides the 4 walls of Norristown, Pennsylvania, folks. It's a whole world out here.
100%. I think that helps, right? So that exposure, field trips, right? Summer camps, different things like that has to be mandatory, right? And things have to be done to the intentional highest level of gift that we can for these children, right? I know sometimes there's economic challenges and all those things, but we're in the 21st century. It's 2025. We can find ways to make things happen.
Absolutely.
Right? You can communicate with people across the globe now, right? So even though that might not be a physical field trip, but kids could be on a Zoom with children in, Ghana.
Okay.
Right? Like pen pals aren't just in Philly no more.
That's right.
So I think we have to work on that exposure. And that exposure will hopefully put a little bit of want in a child and say, I want to see more, I want to do more, and I want to give back more. And hopefully that will draw us into the right direction and we won't get incarcerated. And if we do, we make a mistake, we learn from it.
Absolutely.
We got to learn from it.
I like the way you're thinking on that. I have one other question. So for a person who may be transitioning back home, because I don't want to say reentry either, you didn't leave nowhere, you just were away for a little while. But for a person who's coming home, right? And I have this challenge of literacy. I didn't make it past the 3rd grade. Where can that person start to put the pieces back together and move forward? How should they start?
So and I'll be honest, giving another plug. Get on social media, right? Be vulnerable and transparent. I need help. right?
The queen of it. Okay.
I'm gonna be honest.
Hey.
Hey, you know, and if you don't want to post it, you could put it in a DM, right? Because I believe certain people have skills to get it, even if you have to voice record it, if you don't know how to write it to start. But find the Lit Champs. We are blessed with a lot of networks in this literacy space now that we have adult educators or adult how can I say it? Like
tutors, trainers,
right?
Okay.
Yeah, for adults.
Okay.
There's a lady out of New York who does Zoom and everything.
Nice.
Her lady is the name is Clarissa Phillips.
Hey, Clarissa.
Yep. She does adult education for learning how to read.
Awesome.
Right. She has a great book called City Stories, which teaches adults how to read through a City Stories book.
I love it.
Instead of giving an adult like
a book here,
Dr.
read
Seuss,
this. Yes.
Right? So there's ways out there, right? I would really say reach out to the Lit Champs, and I'm not saying we know it all.
Okay.
But if you're local,
it's a great place to start.
And you're having those struggles, there are people out here who want to help people who just struggling with reading. They're not going to judge you by your background. The only judging they're going to look at is say, take this test so I can see your baseline and how I can get you to where you
move
need to
you
get
forward.
To. That's it.
Okay.
What you do with it is what you do with it.
Okay.
So that's one thing. In that space there, I can guarantee you will not be judged by your background when you're trying to get help to learn how to read.
Love it.
I promise you. So please take advantage of it.
I am all excited. You can't see it now because I have on my jacket, and every time I hear good news, I get goosebumps. So we're going to give the Lit Champs another shout out, and I want you to come see my friend. I want you to come see my friend Tre Hadrick and read the book Clippers and Me, because I know I didn't say that right.
Cheesesteaks and Clippers.
Tre, thank you so much for your time. And is there anything you would like to leave our community with as a final word?
Protect your history. I think that's so important. Outside of all the literacy stuff, like we spoke about the hollow earlier. I learned the other day that the former chief, Mr. Richette, the basketball court, DePal, was named after him at one time.
Really?
And that was
I didn't know that. And that's my neighbor, former neighbor.
Yeah,
that's
no
crazy.
longer is named after him.
See,
right? So
the Arthur Ashe Center in Philadelphia, the Legacy Center,
it stays there.
But they took the Arthur Ashe out of it. It's now the Legacy Center, and he was a legacy.
Correct. So we got to think about
right.
things like that, like making sure we stamp things. There's reasons why names are on places,
and why
There's
names
reasons
are important.
Correct. And don't let people tell you that elsewhere, right? They do that purposely, and they put money rights on naming things.
Absolutely.
Purposely.
Copyrights. Take your own name.
I just say protect the local history, and in particular, the local Black history in Norristown.
That's important.
We have to collect it in one location and hold on to it because that's people's legacy, and it helps people unite and be connected. Like my mother and you,
The
like
community.
that's just what it was.
She was a part of my village, whether or not she knew it. I adopted her.
We lived on Basin Street on my
around
birthday.
the corner. That's what I was on Wood at that point. Around the
we
corner.
lived on Basin Street across from the OIC. So,
Yes.
That's where we were. And then when we moved to Markley Street, she was there, and kids were walking down the street.
She was tangible.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thank you for having me on here.
Oh,
today.
you are amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And make sure you tag me so that I can keep up with you and the Lit Champs, please.
I will.
You might end up getting a volunteer.
Oh,
You might.
listen.
Let's figure this
We
out.
need it. We need it. Volunteers are definitely needed. Please reach out.
Thank you so much. And this is the conclusion of this episode of Uncensored Inspiration. Tre, you got to hit it with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Uncensored Inspiration. Please remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe. All the things that help us to serve the community to speak freely and think boldly. Ciao for now.